Hello and welcome to another edition of Watching Washington, a public affairs program brought to you by the Brian Lamb School of Communication. It's Friday, October 11th, and I'm Will Courtney.
And I'm Kyle Herschel. Here's a look at what happened this week. First, a look at Hurricane Milton, the second major hurricane to hit Florida this past month.
Hurricane Milton brought powerful winds, a dangerous storm surge, and flooding to much of Florida after making landfall along the Gulf Coast as a Category 3 storm. Hurricane Milton has since moved out to sea, weakening to a post-tropical cyclone, but caused immense damage. At least 16 people have been confirmed dead in the storm's aftermath, which includes at least 5 deaths in St. Lucie County on Florida's Atlantic coast, where officials say tornadoes touched down. In addition, 11 million people were at risk of flash and river flooding, and 3.4 million energy customers were without electricity in Florida as of 11:50 a.m. Eastern on Thursday.
I have lived in Florida since 1989.
Yeah.
Never have I experienced damage or the amount of tornadoes that came through this area.
Yeah.
And it was the most frightening thing I've ever lived through.
As Hurricane Milton moves eastward, the Gulf Post mayor, Sam Henderson, told CNN that the worst of it has passed us by. The winds are subsiding. We're still getting substantial gusts, but we're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel, end quote. A number of national and local organizations are accepting donations to help affected areas in Florida, some of which were already struggling with devastation from Hurricane Helene last month.
And continuing with the news of the hurricane, Governor Ron DeSantis has been caught in some controversy that appears to what some may see as playing politics with the natural disaster. NBC News reported that DeSantis has been avoiding calls from the vice president related to the hurricane. The vice president was asked about these comments Monday. This is what she said.
You know, moments of crisis, if nothing else, should really be the moment that anyone who calls themselves a leader says they're going to put politics aside and put the people first. People are in desperate need of support right now, and playing political games with this moment in these crisis situations, these are the height of emergency situations, is just utterly irresponsible, and it is selfish, and it is about political gamesmanship instead of doing the job that you took an oath to do, which is to put the people first.
Governor DeSantis told Fox News that he has worked under both the Trump and Biden administrations to provide support and that she was the one bringing politics into it, not him. Former President Donald Trump has defended DeSantis' actions regarding hurricane recovery and has openly bashed the federal government's response. President Biden announced Thursday that there are 20 million meals and 40 million liters of water ready for delivery to survivors of the hurricane, and rescue teams are on standby, according to CBS News. Early voting is now underway in several states. That's where voters can basically vote absentee but in person. Right now, early voting is happening in Arizona, California, Illinois, Maine, Minnesota, Montana, Nebraska, New Mexico, South Dakota, Ohio, Vermont, Virginia, Wyoming, and here in Indiana. In Tippecanoe County, where Purdue University is located, the county clerk's office reports that more than 2,300 people have voted so far. Those ballots have been cast at the county annex building, which is the only open voting site this week. The election board has approved early voting at the COREC on Thursday, October 24th, from 10 to 4 p.m. That will be your only chance to cast a ballot conveniently on campus, Boilermakers.
The U.S. government is weighing the breakup of one of the world's largest and most consequential monopolies, Google. In a court filing Tuesday, the Justice Department said it may recommend separating Google's search business from Android, Chrome, and the Google Play App Store. The DOJ says this would prevent Google from using its search features to advance its product over rivals. In a blog post, Google said the government's potential plan could make the customer experience worse and undermine people's privacy. This comes after a federal judge ruled in August that Google had violated antitrust laws with its search business. Google said at the time it planned to appeal the decision. Google said at the time as well it also planned to appeal that decision. The DOJ's recommendation would also kick off a separate proceeding. With both cases, the entire process could take months or even years to play out.
According to CNN, the Supreme Court signaled Tuesday it may uphold a Biden administration regulation on ghost guns, mail-order kits allowing people to build fully functional and untraceable guns at home. The court must decide if the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives oversteps its authority with regulations imposed on these kits in 2022. The agency said a 1968 law requiring manufacturers and dealers to perform background checks, keep sales records, and include serial numbers on firearms now covers the ghost gun kits. Advocacy groups and several manufacturers of the kits sued, arguing the agency had overstepped its authority. Justice Samuel Alito questioned the U.S. Solicitor General on whether a collection of unassembled parts can be considered to be a gun.
I want to stick with the definition of weapon for just a second.
Oh, sure.
I'm going to show you. Here's a blank pad, and here's a pen. All right? Is this a grocery list?
I don't think that that's a grocery list, but the reason for that is because there are a lot of things you could use those products for to create something other than a grocery list.
All right,
and so it's not like they're...
If I show you, I put out on a counter some eggs, some chopped up ham, some chopped up pepper and onions. Is that a Western omelet?
No, because again, those items have well-known other uses to become something other than an omelet. The key difference here is that these weapon parts kits are designed and intended to be used as instruments of combat, and they have no other conceivable use.
Chief Justice John Roberts appeared skeptical of the notion that the kits are geared toward gunsmithing hobbyists. According to CNN, Roberts said to the lawyer representing the gun kit manufacturers, drilling a hole or two, I would think, and this is all a quote, doesn't give the same sort of reward that you get from working on your car on the weekends. My understanding is that it's not terribly difficult for someone to do this, end quote. The Supreme Court's decision is expected by next summer.
Also this week, the justices heard oral arguments regarding an appeal for Richard Glossop, an Oklahoma death row inmate convicted of arranging the murder of a man in 1997. According to CBS News, the court has determined if state courts should review allegations that prosecutors withheld evidence relevant to the case. The 61-year-old has been scheduled for execution 9 times and eaten his last meal on death row 3 times, according to CNN. A decision in this case is expected by the end of June 2025.
CNN anchor Christiane Amanpour sat down with former Clinton advisor Laura DeAndre Tyson to discuss how reproductive rights and pro-family policies are not just cultural issues, but vital cornerstones of economic freedom in the United States. Tyson elaborates on the significant impact that reproductive choice has had on women's educational and career paths, emphasizing the economic implications. Tyson also said restrictions disproportionately affect lower-income women and their families. The Supreme Court has decided not only to hear a case involving Texas and emergency abortion care. This ruling leaves a court order that blocks the Biden administration from enforcing its policies requiring hospitals in Texas to provide emergency abortion services or face the loss of federal funding. The Justice Department had urged the Supreme Court to overturn this decision, but today's ruling marks a setback for the administration's efforts to safeguard abortion access, following the Supreme Court's reversal of Roe v. Wade in 2022. Now for our race to watch this week. We head down to Arizona, which just held a senatorial debate this past Wednesday, featuring the very close race between Democratic Representative Ruben Gallego and his opponent, Republican Kari Lake. Lake has already become notorious for her past candidacy in 2022, which was for governor. At the time, Lake lost in one of the closest gubernatorial races of the election cycle. Following that, she denied the losses of both herself and the former president, Donald Trump. Many lawsuits were made to try to overturn these results, but none of them were successful. On the other hand, Gallego has been known as a strong left-leaning potential political force in the past, but this election cycle, Gallego is going for a more moderate approach in hopes of gaining some swing voters. In most polls, Lake is trailing Gallego by some margin. It looks like close to 10 points in some different areas. Up next, journalist Bob Woodward writes candid information about Biden's presidency.
Plus more information on this year's Nobel Prize winners. Stay with us, more Watching Washington, next.
The program allows students to finish their bachelor's degree and also get an online master's degree that overlap during their last year at Purdue.
Students can more quickly work towards a graduate degree while concurrently starting their professional careers.
The online program allows them to kind of go at their own pace, and so they're not having to abide by the academic calendar.
And our goal is that this would make you even more compelling for your next opportunity in the workforce.
Base 1 General is a just a fun group of guys that were looking to play baseball at the next level, and it's a fun way to have some people come together and play a game we like. The guys that are a nice fit to the team as well as good at baseball. So that's really a big piece of the puzzle to joining the team, and you can get a lot of information just reaching out.
Football. It's the best time of the year. You know what else is great? The world's largest and fastest mascot. You can't have Purdue football without the trains. Look for the Reamer Club outside Stewart Center, 12 to 5 p.m. on Fridays before home football games, for your chance to ride the Boilermaker Special for free. See you then!
Legendary journalist Bob Woodward's next book provides a revealing glimpse into President Biden's candid assessments and interactions with global leaders, such as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Russian President Vladimir Putin. In his book titled War, Woodward reports that Biden privately referred to Netanyahu as, quote, a bad guy, end quote, using strong language in conversations about the Israeli leader. Additionally, Biden expressed his disdain for Putin following the invasion of Ukraine, declaring, quote, Putin is evil. We are dealing with the epitome of evil, end quote. The book also sheds light on former President Trump's private discussions with Putin and will be released on October 15th. Another big bombshell in the book claims President Trump sent a covert shipment of COVID-19 testing equipment for Putin's personal use during the pandemic.
Vice President Harris is once again calling out Senator J.D. Vance for his, quote, childless cat lady remarks, but this time on a popular podcast. On Sunday, the Vice President appeared on the Call Her Daddy podcast hosted by Alex Cooper. Cooper's show is the second biggest podcast on Spotify's platform. The pair's 40-minute conversation covered topics such as Harris's upbringing, the rollback of abortion rights, the high cost of housing, and Republican attacks on, quote, childless cat ladies.
I just think it's mean and mean-spirited. And I think that most Americans want leaders who understand that the measure of their strength is not based on who you beat down. The real measure of the strength of a leader is based on who you lift up.
Harris's appearance on Call Her Daddy is part of an active press run that has included her being featured on The View and The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. Former President Donald Trump is partaking in a similar media campaign where he has been featured on the Flagrant podcast and The Hugh Hewitt Show. Alex Cooper clarified that she did invite the former president to be a guest on her show, but that she has not received a response from his team. She made clear in a short video posted to her Instagram that the invitation remains open for a future interview.
Inflation continued to slow down in September, reaching a 3.5-year low. New data released Thursday says it's similar to what was seen in 2017 and 2018. The Consumer Price Index, which measures price change across the commonly purchased goods and services, was 2.4% for the 12 months ending in September. That's according to the latest Bureau of Labor Statistics report. It's less of a cool down than economists were expecting, though, and they really hope that this is still headed in the right direction. While the overall trend seems encouraging, many experts warn that volatility in energy prices could really continue to put pressures on consumers. The core CPI measurements was expected to be sticky for the month due to shelter inflation and a temporary price hike for things like insurance, housing, and vehicles. However, some economists are optimistic that the supply chain continues to improve. Price pressures on consumers may ease in the coming months.
It's Nobel Prize Week, where the most groundbreaking innovators are recognized for their contributions to society. UC Berkeley alum Gary Ruvkin and Victor Ambrose, a researcher at UMass Chan Medical School, were awarded the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine for their discovery of microRNA. For physics, John J. Hopfield and Jeffrey Hinton received a Nobel Prize for breakthroughs in machine learning and artificial neural networks. On Wednesday, David Baker, Demi Hassabis, and John Jumper won chemistry for using AI to predict and design protein structures. On Thursday, South Korean author Han Kang was awarded for her poetic prose exploring historical trauma and human fragility. And Friday morning, a Japanese organization working, quote, to achieve a world free of nuclear weapons was announced as the winner of this year's Nobel Peace Prize. The Nobel Committee praised the group, known as Nihon Hidankyo, or hibakusha, for demonstrating through witness testimony the dangers of nuclear weapons. The organization was formed by survivors of the atomic bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945. Nobel Prize winners are given a medal, personal diploma, and a cash award of about $1.1 million.
Last Saturday, former President Trump returned to Butler, Pennsylvania, where he held another campaign rally. This was the site of an attempted assassination attempt in July. During the rally, Trump's running mate, Senator J.D. Vance, and entrepreneur Elon Musk actually joined the former president on the stage. There was also a moment of silence during the rally for Corey Comparator, the man who was killed at the first rally when the gunman opened fire. Our in-studio guest this week is a student from the American Presidency course at Purdue.
We'll find out whether looking at history can help us gain better insight into the present and future of the nation's highest office. The full interview just ahead on Watching Washington.
Imagine a world where Olympics and Paralympics are unified as one, and where all athletes at all levels have equal opportunities to play and perform at their full potential.
Athletics has been such an influential and transformative aspect of my life. So to me, RISE is about ensuring that every person that has the desire to participate in sport has the opportunity to do so.
This organization is about recognition. We believe in recognizing excellence where it is found, especially in Paralympic sports.
RISE is about driving change in our community and beyond. We hope that through our events and initiatives, we can galvanize people for our cause and inspire them to create an ever-growing network to help achieve our mission.
It's about connecting people of various backgrounds and who truly care about creating meaningful change together.
We develop projects and hold events to bring people together at the interface of inclusivity, sports, and engineering.
Our goal is to promote the equality of all sports and to improve sports performance and accessibility.
Join us so that you can have a major contribution in creating meaningful change.
At Purdue University, we're not just students, we're future leaders. Join Air Force ROTC to embark on a journey of honor, excellence, and service. Learn, lead, and soar to new heights. It's not just a commitment, it's a calling. Purdue Air Force ROTC, where dreams take flight. Are you ready to rise? I got a switch in my head. I go from living to dead. You got me seeing all red. Now I'm becoming.
We are energetic, we are motivating, and we are unique.
I don't think you can beat Quidditch.
Who's up, every down!
3, 2, 1.
What does it take to be a Purdue tour guide? You've got to know your history. You have to know your facts. You've got to have that Purdue spirit. And you have to walk backwards.
We have a special guest with us in the studio this week.
David Weiderhaft is here from the American Presidency class, here to discuss a little bit about what history can teach us about the upcoming election.
Thanks for being here, David.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So for my first question, tell us about the American Presidency course and what you're learning in that class.
Yeah, so we're basically going from the first president, George Washington, and the start of the presidency, and analyzing the progression and the evolution of the role all the way up until the future winner is elected in just a little under 30 days. And we're kind of analyzing just how the president has changed throughout the role, how their role has changed throughout the government, how they've become more of a presence in legislation, all the way up to now they've become a little bit more of a celebrity figure with people like JFK, Ronald Reagan, Donald Trump recently, and kind of analyzing the changes and what different roles the president has played throughout the American government.
Okay. And are there historical presidential elections that you can think of that have been influential and could even prove to be influential to the current race?
Well, so we're looking at two right now in class. One we looked at about a month ago, which was the 1912 election. And that was just a crazy election. You have 4 candidates, all with a good chance at getting the spot. You had Woodrow Wilson, William Howard Taft, Eugene Debs, and then the former president, Teddy Roosevelt. And that was kind of unforeseen at the time. You had Teddy Roosevelt breaking loose from the Republican Party, forming the Bull Moose Party. And so that was just a really influential election that kind of was the last time we've seen 4 people all vying for the role. And then right now, of course, the 1960 presidential election, which of course saw the first televised presidential debate with John F. Kennedy and Richard Nixon, and how influential just the campaigns in general and that debate was. We've all heard of the story probably of how people on the radio, listeners thought Richard Nixon won the debate, but TV viewers thought that JFK won the debate. We learned in class a couple days ago. It's actually pretty much a myth. It's made up. It was more of a consensus that JFK had won the debate. There's also a myth that Richard Nixon didn't really care about TV appearances that much. He was just more focused on winning the race the traditional way. But Richard Nixon actually cared a lot about TV appearances. That day, he just didn't really have it down. JFK kind of came out swinging. I know there's a story about JFK going into the stage, into the studio before, and changing his suit jacket color so he would pop more off in contrast to the background. Richard Nixon didn't scout the studio earlier, so his suit color kind of faded more to the background, which was like a light tan color. I mean, it was black and white, so it was whatever. Yeah. But JFK with the black suit jacket kind of popped off more, much more visually appealing. And who knows if it had a real factor or not, but just an interesting little tidbit about that debate.
Yeah, so even just the little things like that can
That's right.
affect how presidential candidates are seen and looked at by the public?
Yeah, I mean, it's very much, even now, it's very much an aesthetic thing, a lot less, obviously, before televised debates, but the way a candidate comes off is extremely important. Kind of going back to JFK when he was running in the Wisconsin primaries against Hubert Humphrey, the way that JFK kind of had a composure about him, people approached him, and you have people coming up asking for autographs. That's why we kind of talked about the emergence of the celebrity president. Hubert Humphrey kind of had to go up, introduce himself, say, hi, I'm Hubert Humphrey, give him a campaign flower. Everybody knew who JFK was because he came off that way. He was he was a young man, family man at the time. He was a very aesthetically pleasing candidate, and that's really what drove a lot of people toward him.
Okay. And so with all this history of so many past presidential elections, can we use that history to predict what's going to happen in these future elections and even in the election that's currently going on?
I think if there's one thing that this election has been so far, it's been unpredictable. We've seen a lot of different things happen in this election. I think back to 1968, Lyndon B. Johnson, I believe he was the first president since Joe Biden this year to not seek a second term. He dropped out of the race citing poor health, and then Richard Nixon went on to win the election. And then you had Grover Cleveland, who was the 22nd and 24th president of the United States, the non-sequential terms, of course, what Donald Trump is trying to do in this election. But it's been a really, this has had everything. Joe Biden dropped down, Kamala Harris became the nominee, there was an assassination attempt. There's just been a little bit of everything in this election, and it's tough to look back on a certain one that this kind of resembles. But we can kind of look back at those different trends with Lyndon B. Johnson and Grover Cleveland, maybe kind of see how that plays into this one.
Yeah, and with those unexpected things that can happen in elections and things that we've never really seen before, one thing that has been talked about and debated about for hundreds of years with these elections is the Electoral College. What is your take on the Electoral College, and what benefit and what factor does it play into an election?
Yeah, well, you mentioned it. It's been a hot button issue for a long time. I think a lot longer than what a lot of Americans realize. Even going back to when it was ratified in 1787, it's been debated upon amongst the government and the legislature. I think the farthest they've ever gotten to actually, having reform on the Electoral College was back to that 1968 election when Richard Nixon won. He won the Electoral College, but only won the popular vote by a little over 500,000, so it was very close. And a proposal came into Congress to amend the Electoral College into a popular vote system where the majority of the vote, whoever got the majority of the vote would win, only if they obtained 40% of the popular vote. If that was not obtained, then they would go into a runoff election. Since then, you've had Jimmy Carter come out when he was president, say we should go to a popular vote. And just recently, a few days ago, Governor Tim Walz, the vice president nominee for the Democratic Party, came out and said that we should abolish the Electoral College. I think it still plays a role. You see these swing states, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Nevada, Arizona, that are always so prominent in these elections. They wouldn't be as prominent without the Electoral College, just due to the nature of they're the purple states, right? They swing back and forth. They have a significant amount of electoral votes. I think under a popular vote system, we would see a lot more focus on the populated states. We'd see a lot more campaigning in California, Florida, New York, Texas. So I think regardless of having the Electoral College or not, it would shift where campaign resources, where these nominees choose to spend their time campaigning based off of population.
Okay, thank you, David. That's a lot of great information, and that's all the time that we have today. Thank you to our guest, David Weiderhaft, for being with us today, and thank you for watching. See you next time on Watching Washington.
What is one message you would give to your fans?
I would just have to tell them to keep pursuing their dreams.
And cut. So just put a little more emphasis on pursue your dreams.
Okay, got it.
If you want to make movies, PSP is the best place to be.
Your ideas can come to life with our club.
One of the many benefits of being a part of PSP is actually the amount of gear we have available to rent to you for no charge at all and no experience necessary.
Join Purdue Student Productions today.
So I am the president of the ski club. I'm pretty decent at skiing, I would say, but I still am cautious and reserved when I skied. And Copper, one of the other officers, was like, we're hitting this today. The last day, we're gonna do it, and you're gonna come up with me. He really convinced me, and we got to the top of the lift, and as we were going up the lift was literally like this. Then we get to the top, and I was angry. We're looking over this ridge and you can't see where the hill goes. You're looking over the edge and you don't see anything. Once I got over that little ridge and I was able to kind of see where I was going, once I got to the bottom, it was like a great accomplishment. If you want to have the time of your life, definitely check out Purdue Ski and Snowboard Club.
You're watching Fast Track News.